Cool, so that should be working now. Sort of discarded 20 seconds worth of gameplay, but shouldn't really matter. So we see Casper getting forced off this first hunt just with a scout and a single spearman, and the second one's coming in. So Ken's actually population capped now, and he's throwing up another longhouse. So if he had that up earlier, he could have had another couple of spears here. But both players just sort of microing over this hunt now, because it's going to be quite crucial for Casper, because otherwise he'll be forced to have to expand elsewhere. And he is going to lose a single villager, and at the moment he's managed to keep his units alive, but he may lose the spearman. Getting quite low. Thanks for tuning in, Alzaris, and letting me know all about the technical difficulties at the start of the game. Better than playing out the whole thing and not realizing, hey? So this spearman is slowly going to fall 4 health at a time. There we go. Alright, so Casper's actually saying it's a little bit laggy for him at the moment. He's throwing up that town centre, while his opponent is throwing up a second barracks. So Ken's opting for the more offensive sort of opening in this position. He didn't actually have that stone bank, whereas Casper did. And he's going to have that second TC up. It's in quite a defendable position, because he's going to be able to defend either TC with the other. And it's going to be quite crucial here. Both players being Norse, they're going to really want to minimise the amount of time they spend building things with their actual villages, because it obviously frees them up to gather more. But in the same token, if you're being very aggressive with your units, having pulled a couple back to go and build something can sometimes make the difference in a fight. So you've got to be a bit careful sometimes. So we've got 7 units here for Ken. 7 for Casper, 6 for Ken. And in terms of what players know about one another, Ken hasn't actually seen that second TC from Casper, and likewise, Casper, he does actually know the stables is on the way. So there's 3 cavalry queued up straight away, and a whole bunch of throwing axemen too, whereas Casper, he's really only got resources for handsaw coming out at the moment. He's taking his second barracks as well. Right now, Casper's actually a little bit behind in the worker count. He must have cut his worker production for a little bit, or been housed or something, because he really only lost 1 at that hunt. And every worker counts at the end of the day, because they're all either gathering or building. So 3 workers at this stage could basically mean a unit every 30 seconds or so. But anyway, Ken's opting for another longhouse here. He's pushing it right to the limit. He hasn't actually got any villagers queued, which is not that good of a position to be in. It's a bit uncomfortable sometimes when you take the TC and you don't quite have enough wood to throw up a quick house in the meantime, because the TCs take fucking forever to build. So sometimes you just got to put a bit of forethought into it and try and get a house or a longhouse, in Norse's case, up earlier before it actually goes down. And avoid being capped on your TC and on your production facilities in the meantime, and pretty much undoing having opened so greedily. This is a pretty good wood line here from Casper. From Ken probably really could do with tidying his up a bit. He's opting at sending some cavalry down just to protect this. Oh, maybe look at taking the large hunts as well, rather than having to expand to elsewhere on the map. Because Sheltered Pass has sort of got 3 or 4 hunts per each side of the map, and then it's one of the harder maps for trying to take your opponents, because you've got these passes. So if you get caught out, it can be really hard to try and get back across. So we've got some units just coming out here for Ken, some more here for Casper. A really cool skin on. It's a cool little last they've got. But anyway, that's nice from Ken Khan. So he's managed to land himself an extra 1,000 food there. He's not going to have to move off that for a little while. Being right at the back of his base, it's going to be quite easy to defend as well, I think. So he's just pushing up with the scout. Going to try and find out what Casper's actually up to here, who just seems to really be sitting back. Banked up quite a lot of wood, actually. Hasn't got a lot of food. Yeah, Casper's in a funny spot. Like, he really could be on another couple of production facilities at this stage. And he doesn't really have the food to be pumping out a whole bunch of units. He's really only got the villagers coming out. Likewise, Ken's only got the single villager at this stage coming out. But he's pumping out all these throwing axemen, and he's got 5 production facilities compared to 2 at this stage. So things can get quite hairy here for him, because Casper, he's got 28 villagers versus Ken's 36. So that 8 village count lead, it's probably really starting to make a difference, because... Where's he getting this from? He's getting arrow upgrade. So he's taking the arrow upgrade early, and he's getting his pickaxe upgrade. So in terms of eco upgrades, Casper's really only got his tier 1 wood upgrade. Ken's got a berries upgrade, a tier 1 wood upgrade, and he's got his tier 1 gold upgrade incoming as well. So he's looking at moving out now. He's got that small eco advantage. I think the score is probably tilted in Casper's favour from the fact that he's got so much resources in the bank, whereas Ken seems to be doing a better job at spending it, I'd say, because he's actually, got a small eco lead here. And Casper seems to be housed again at this stage, but, oh no, here we go, the longhouse is coming up, so he should throw down a whole bunch of stuff here, because he's got the resources in the bank to do so. And Ken's moving out with his cavalry, so things can get quite hairy here, because he's got the cavalry here on one side, so the infantry down here, so obviously he wants to try and make use of both. Cavalry coming back in, they're going to wrap around the base. There's already some spears here. Ooh, Ken's actually opted to pull out. See what his opponent's doing. He's going to have seen that, isn't he? Yeah, so both players. Casper moving his army back, but Ken seizing the opportunity to cancel the storehouse. Cancel the armory then. And just run these cavalry past. It'll take a little bit of damage, but it's not going to be huge. Ranged units in general don't really do a lot to cavalry, except for ranged cavalry. So in terms of the upgrades, we've got, the armor upgrade coming out from the red Norse player, and the blue, well, that armory got denied, so he's opting to tech up at this stage, try and force out that third TC instead. But he still needs to get a bit more stone to be able to do so, and he's not got a lot of food at the moment, Casper, compared to his other resources, but he's being pushed into right now by Ken, who's sort of just milling his army through to take up a lot of the shots from the throwing axemen, which is actually pretty smart, because his own throwing axemen aren't really taking any damage at all, and in the meantime they've picked off pretty much all the spears and a good bulk of these throwing axemen of his opponents. So it's 25 versus 15 at the moment in terms of the throwing axemen count, and there's the last couple of raiders on Ken's side are dying, but he's forced out some more spearmen out of his opponent, which is really nice, because those spearmen aren't really going to be able to do much against the rest of these throwing axemen who are just beating down on Casper's army. Ken, having made, I think, the better fighting decision at this point, he's pushed in, but he really needs to make something happen here, because his opponent, there's some Hajas coming out, which are a lot like the Hoplites of the Norse, so to speak, because they're just really good in general for transitional play compared to the throwing axemen, but obviously they don't have the range. But here we go, there's been a whole bunch of villages go down, and things are really looking quite hairy for for Casper at the moment, because Ken seems to have everything going his way at the moment, taking out that storehouse on the gold mine, and yeah, there's no actual other gold being taken by Casper at the moment. He's all out of gold, very low on food, no actual gatherers on food either, so wow, things are really looking really drastic for Casper. He needs to make something happen here. He's got these villages all queued up. He's going to try and take this third TC, I think, but I don't know if it's too little too late, because there's very little in terms of units coming out. Like I said, he's got 3 barracks as an archery range compared to his opponent's, oh, what's 5 or 6 production facilities. But oh, here we go. We have the GG. So, in terms of the post game, villages. So Ken, yeah, taking a small work account lead and more or less maintaining it over the whole of the game, and using it to mount that very good aggression into his opponent Casper, who just didn't seem to have enough to actually hold. And the use of the cavalry to really try and absorb as many as the TA shots as possible, whilst also staying away from the spears, seemed to really help him in that fight. Yeah, guys, we'll have a game 2 in just a second. How do I change this bloody thing? Alright, so what screen am I on? Okay. That transition properly? Why doesn't it transition properly? Bloody hell. Okay. Alright guys, so that's game 1. Casper fell to Ken's Norse. Alright, well, Ken's pretty set on playing Norse, so I might just let him... he won, so I mean, I really probably should get him to swap, because it's not really that fair if Casper is. Sorry guys, be 1 sec. Nah, different player. So for game 2, alright, looks like we've got a Black Forest map choice from Casper here. Interesting. Right, be 1 sec, guys. Now, is this going to be the right screen? Alright, so we're kicking off with a G the end game this game. Kenkan's opted to stay with the Norse. Casper's opted to go with the Greek. So yeah, we've got the Norse, Ken, blue in the top side. Bottom side we've got Casper, the red Greek. And I think everything should be working fine. I'll just double check in a sec. So we've got Ken opting for an early scout, being the Norse player he can afford to do so because the other one can just go and clear the hunt anyway. Casper, he's just sort of sitting back here at the moment. He hasn't actually opted to keep scouting just yet, but here we go, off we go. Now Black Forest, it's a bit of a funny map. There's some really tight chokes in it, so it's quite easy to wall up and lock your opponent out. It hasn't really been, you know, a meta map or a pool map for quite a long time now, I don't think. Yeah, just really because there's no real way to even get to the back of your opponent's base once they've really walled it, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 chokes off. And like I was saying, yeah, it's not really fair sometimes like this. 1, 2 chokes here versus 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we see both players fighting over the cows. Ken's going to try and pinch these off Casper at this stage. Both players still just on the one storehouse, probably going to try and both pump out an early barracks. So here's Casper's going down. Ken's not just yet. He's about 40 wood off at this stage. So we've got a storehouse of Casper's going down as well. Ken still no second barrack. I mean, no barracks, no second storehouse just yet. So this is probably going to cost him a little bit. Not going for more of that wood up there. He's opted to go for this distance gathering here, which always hurts you in the long run. So he's taking his barracks now, but his opponent's is about 2/3 finished. It's a real nice position for Casper to be in if he can make something happen with these spears. So we've got 11 villages for Ken, 11 for Casper, so they're dead even on that. See if there's something coming out here. You need to force those out, buddy. Make up for not gathering more at this stage. So there's actually no villages coming out either for Casper. Here we go. So he's got 3 spears coming out for Casper. He needs to kill up a villager though, because otherwise he can fall behind economically if he doesn't actually get anything with them. So here we go. We've got 3 villagers and 2 spearmen still in the queue. Ken pumping out villagers, not actually opting for any spearmen just yet. Maybe he's going to try and age quickly and behind that get a whole bunch of throwing axemen before the spears actually get to him, but we'll see what happens. He's actually taking a longhouse here in a bit of a funny spot to sort of try and wall off this fairly narrow pass. Casper's 3 spears coming out now. But Ken's actually, he's got a scout here, which is not a bad idea. Scout up there, I'm not quite so sure why. That's sort of more to defend that, I think, I'd say, rather than tell him anything about it, because it's unlikely for Casper to actually expand over that side of the map. So 5 counts here for Kenkan versus only 2 down here for Casper. So, well, yeah, 6 versus 2, so that's probably Norse Opie doing that. And these scouts see each other. What are you guys doing? Attack one another. Have a fight. You made eye contact with me. That means you want to fight. Here we go. Now he's moving in. Casper's going to try and take out Ken's scout, or at least deny the vision. Ken, up here, he's getting on his stone. Casper's actually already been on his stone. He's about 130 ahead. That's going to be a bit of an advantage, but he does need to make sure he's got the wood as well to be able to throw it down. So we've got some longswords coming out here for Cass. No units just yet. Oh, here we go. We've got some throwing axemen coming out for Ken, so he's a bit later on the military production. 4 military units already, basically, for his opponent. Although his macro game seems to be a little bit stronger. No economic upgrades taken by Ken, funnily enough, though by Casper. He's taken his tier 1 wood upgrade. I'm going to try and force out as much as he can. Both players sort of sitting back a bit safely on this one at the moment. Another barracks coming out for Ken, who sort of had the wood to be able to do so. Still got another 300 to be able to throw down in town centre as soon as he gets the stone for it. Casper, on the other hand, he's got the stone he needs. He still needs to get some more wood. He's looking at pulling all those villages together to be able to do so, get that up ASAP. So we've got 3 spears, 4 longs for Greek. We've got 5 throwing axemen for the Norse player at this stage. In terms of the village count, we've got 20 to Casper, 21 to Ken. So things are still fairly close. Neither player's really put any pressure on the other at this stage of the game. They're both just still gathering. Get some Toxotes coming out here. That's a cool little crown you've got there on that one, on that fellow, Casper. So we've got the archery range here versus the two barracks and a stables coming out, which is sort of a logical choice, I think, because realistically with the stables, you can fight your opponent's ranged units, and on top of that, you can trade well with their cavalry as well. Whereas if you just opt for the archery range in Ken's position, you're sort of really only good against barracks range comps, and you can be caught out if your opponent goes for like a fast 1-1-1 play. Yeah, we've got this town centre going down here for Casper. Ken's not down just yet, but he's probably looking at, yeah, he's just throwing it down here. This is actually a nice little wall off here, because Casper's going to have to try and attack into this. But this is a really good time for Casper to show up, because it's only just gone down. But he's got to be really careful, make sure he micros the units and gets what he can out of this. He's really forced the throwing axemen back, and he's just picking them down. All the scout taking hits then means that the throwing axemen aren't, means that all these units going down. So Casper not really getting enough out of this fight to really warrant losing all the units there, I don't think, because Ken, he's got his 11 throwing axemen still alive there. There's 2 Toxotes still sitting back here. 6 workers for Casper just idling, which isn't ideal. He really could have them on here, or gathering, or building something else in this stage. And yeah, we've got Ken with a raider, looking at queuing up another one. Get some more behind that as well. Maybe raid, or just even keep them with the main army, just for being able to pick off the Toxotes, which is always nice, because they are really, really hard hitting. In terms of their multiplier damage against infantry, I think they've got the best damage out of all the archers. Funnily enough, I think Celt, on the other hand, have the worst multiplier but the best base damage, so they're the best at actually being used against units they're not actually supposed to be used against, so to speak. And we've got a forward outpost here from Ken, which is really going to keep Casper in his base at this point, which is really smart. That's probably the most logical tunnel for Casper to come down, and being Norse as well, he does actually have the option to use War Dogs out of there, but we'll have to see if they come out. I just love War Dogs, guys. I don't know if you figured that out yet. So we've got a force here of nearly 20 throwing axemen, 3 cavalry, versus 7 Toxotes, 4 hypers. Casper's really probably starting to fall behind, I think, in terms of macro. He's only got 28 villages versus Ken's 31. He's queued up 3 eco upgrades compared to his opponent's only got 1 on the way. But in saying that, Ken's got a military upgrade on the way, so his academy's quite smart. But in saying that, you've sort of got to get philosophy and then other tech for it to really be worth it. We see some War Dogs coming out here, which is quite smart from Ken, as long as he doesn't throw them away. Which I think he... Oh no, he's managed to pull them back. The War Dogs are extremely cheap, really good scouting unit. 9 speed, really quick. And they're they cost basically nothing. They don't even take a population, so they're not good to really focus around, because you can only get a fairly small number of them and they're quite weak. But really nice for just picking stuff off. And this big force of Ken's is just piling up outside of Casper's base right now. He's amassing a force of his own, but he really needs to have an answer for these cavalry coming from Ken, or this fight I think it's going to be quite one-sided. So right now Casper, he's sitting on an awful lot of wood and gold, but he's not really making a lot out of it. And he really needs to start getting some food, start cleaning up this wood line, and if he wants to be able to push out and break out of this hold. So, ooh, that's a bit hairy. Taking a bit of damage on the bowman. It didn't cost him anything, but it's not something he really should happen, because now the fight's going to happen, and all these units are going to be a little bit lower than they would have been otherwise. And ooh, that's a bit rough, having to run around the back of the barracks, but take hits in the process. But these archers here, being positioned here, not a bad spot, really. Like, only 1 or 2 cavalry can get in at once on either side there. So he's running all the units back here, trying to get as much TC fire on the army as possible, even though there's so much more for his opponent right now. And Caspar, he's really only pumping out the spearmen. He's got multiple throwing axemen heading straight out in the field. There's 4 cavalry. 4 cavalry for Caspar, still cleaning up here, forcing the units off the stone, and I think that's going to be GG to Ken Khan for... Oh, how do I... Yeah, I should have switched it. Alright guys, so that's the conclusion of Ken Khan v Caspar. I think both games, yeah, Caspar just fell behind a little bit in terms of macro and ended up being choked out of the game in the end. Yeah, both players said it was a little bit laggy as well, so I'm not too sure if that's because of me being an Australian caster. Obviously that adds like a whole continent's worth of distance to both of them. Or whether just one of them just had a poor connection and it ended up throwing the game for both of them out the window. But yeah, at the end of the day, they both had fun, I think. So yeah, cheers for coming along, guys. Cheers for watching, everybody. We're going to have another game very soon. Madlib versus Crimson Cantab, so stay tuned. I'm going to do what I can to get that one sorted as quick as I can. Alright guys, we are ready to roll. Sorry about the coughing, guys. Shouldn't be smoking so much. Alright, here we go. So we are underway. Warlock versus Crimson on equal footing. So, I'll just make sure everything's working fine in a sec. So, alright, to start with, we got Bab v Bab down in the bottom corner. The blue Babylonian player, give it up for Warlock. And in the top corner, the red Babylonian player, give it up for Crimson. So, alright, both players. Crimson's opting for some early wood, probably trying to get that barracks out. And Rahani, he's done the same. Warlock, sorry. You might not know him by his first name. So, they're both opting for early barracks pressure. Is that switched over to the right screen yet? You're dead, why don't you? There we go. Alright, so hopefully it's be on the right screen. Sorry guys, won't be a sec on this one. Sorry for my amateur hour casting. It should kick in about 20 seconds. Just give me a sec. Sorry guys. Bloody delay fucking got me here. So yeah, we got barracks coming up for both players right now. And we're on. So show match time. So it's probably good in a way that it's sort of, you missed that first little fucking boring bit of the game. But right now we got Warlock on 4 sheep. About to pick up another 2. Crimson doesn't seem to have really picked up any just yet. And both players pushing out those early spears. Neither of them really pushing out with the first one. Probably waiting for the third, both of them. Only playing really heavy on the food. He's got 5 on there. We've only got 4 on the food for Crimson. So he's trying to just deny the scout here. Doing a wonderful job of picking out all the goats here. So Crimson, both players, yeah, having to throw down that first house really because they're both at 20 supply. We've got 4 spears on 4 spears. So Crimson Scout's going to really know about that last one moving up, so he's going to have to try and respond to this soon. Yeah, he's going to try and catch him out because he knows he's going to have the other 3 up here anyway. That one's really just tagging along the 4th one built. So Crimson's 5th spear is actually able to do something here, whereas Rahani hasn't actually opted for a 5th spear. He's looking to probably try and age up soon. He's pushing out workers still, but yeah, he's just holding off on that last spearman. Just trying to deal the harass he can and then just get out without over-committing to it. So he's forcing him off the food already. He's gonna... Ooh, he forces 1 villager down. So that's pretty good trade. He's still got all 4 spears at the moment. He's picked off 1 villager. Hasn't actually committed as many spears. Crimson at this stage, he's got 6. Rahani, he's queued up another 2. So both players still just in the age 1. This last spear, I think it's going to fall because he's being tagged by multiple at once. But yeah, that spear is going to pick him off. These other 2 are moving in here. Crimson's making sure to defend with these other 3 that he's pushed out. But he's really had to force out those earlier spears quicker. But both players, yeah, still just in their age 1. Crimson's the one that's actually opting for the stone at this point. Trying to get into age 2, try to get some archers out, try to get some bearers out. They're a much better sort of composition than just trying to run into your opponent with spears time and time again. So Crimson, he's actually on 7 spears. Rahani's just got 1 up here. He's got 4 back at his base. Surely there's a way to bring up stats, isn't there? Thought there was. Okay. So anyway, there's 4 spears chasing one of Warlock's right back to his base. Warlock, he's got his 4 spears just here to defend as well. The 3 coming out for Crimson, so he's going to try and actually hit the wood line this time. But it's going to get scouted. Warlock, yeah, really smart scout. Just sliding it across there, just making sure he's going to notice, and he has. So the spears sort of just backing away at this point. Crimson just trying to make sure he doesn't lose this army here because he's got 4v7. Warlock's just gone straight in on them because he knows his opponent's actually got these spears here. It's really smart decision making from both players at this stage of the game. They, you know, both players just constantly in a back and forth micro battle, decision making battle. Try not to lose as much as they can. Really, all that's gone down, I think, is Warlock's lost a couple of spears. Crimson's lost a villager. The game's... Ooh, Warlock... Actually slightly ahead in villager production. We see Crimson actually just queuing up one there after a bit of downtime. So, again, even as you climb up the ranks, just as players try to fight things out and save things, they do have holes in their macro at times just to try and save other things on the map. You know, and it's all a guessing game really as to what's better in the moment. You find out later on in the game as to whether or not it actually has worked for you. So right now, Warlock, he's got his 9 spear army moving straight up. Crimson's moving in 3. I think they've missed each other completely there. So there's actually Crimson not aware of really what's actually been built and where that army's gone. In the meantime, Warlock, he's sending his troops up around this side. He's going to scout those 3 down there, but yeah, we'll just get back to viewing both for a sec. We pick that spear off there. He's going to scout that though, so Crimson's going to go and, once he's dealt with this, going to maybe try and push back down there because he knows Warlock's taken that now. So both players now starting to get a bunch of other things for some more tier 2, more H2 sort of stuff. See Crimson opting for handsaw. Warlock, in terms of his eco upgrades, he's already got it. He's got the actually, sorry, no, Warlock. Yeah, he's got them both. He's got the H2 wood and gold upgrade already. So Warlock already pumping out his eco. He's on 29 villages versus 25. Crimson, he's got that first town, he's that second town center out earlier, but yeah, he's already down in the worker count by a reasonable amount, you know. An extra 50 of your workers your opponent's got, that's pretty big in the long run if you think about it. So yeah, there's 9 spears versus 9 spears and a bearer. There's some villagers being forced to pull back there for Crimson. These goats finally being discovered. Crimson's going to snatch them up. Going to make sure to not get them caught up with the army because they can slow you down, being only a 4 speed unit versus 6 for pretty much everything else here. So Warlock doing what best he can to try and do a little bit of harass to one unit and then back out again because he's obviously hasn't got the unit advantage here. He wants to try and just delay these units, pull them off to the side while he comes in here with a ranged bearer force, which is really nice. The bearers can tank as much of the TC damage as possible, and the ranged, you know, they force units back. Nice to see bearers coming out as well from Crimson because they're a really, really nice unit to have in the Bab arsenal. And now that they've got resistance versus infantry and damage, they're actually quite nice to have in matchups other than BVB. In BVB, they're pretty much the staple to have, I think, going into the mid game because unless your opponent actually fields some lances, the spears are fucking useless. You know, you've not so much useless, but you've just got to put in that much more work. And if you had bearers, at least they're not going to die instantly to your opponent's bowmen. And it's really smart of Rohani to get so many bowmen early because these spears of Crimson's, he's not going to be able to engage, and he's forced into getting the slingers. And because they're really only good against the bowmen instead of the infantry, it's a lot harder to really make use of them in the big fights, where there's all three, kinds of tech, and once both players actually get their Lancers out in the field, it's going to be much easier, I think, with just the Bowman Bearer Lancer comp than if your opponent's also got to field the Slingers. And these Spears as well, like, they're going to deny Lancers coming out from Rahani, who's really good with his cavalry usage. But he's not necessarily going to try and run them in with the army. And if Crimson's going to try and push out with this, which he's personally told me before about, particularly against Rahani, if he pushes out with Spears, Rahani just responds with running his cavalry straight into his base. So right now we've got both players doing a little bit of a dance here. Rahani's having taken his second town center, getting his armory up. We've got the Lancers coming out from Crimson as himself. He wants to try and fight back with the map pressure, get his opponent back inside his own base. And the way he's going to be able to do that, obviously, is with the cavalry before he gets any siege. So he's going to try and get out a good number of Lancers, while his opponent, Rahani's only got a single Lancer, securing up another one. So both players have got the stables. But, got an archery range coming out here for Crimson, who's right now going to potentially lose that ox cart, which could be quite big. And he's going to go, alright, I'm going to clean it up for good at the cost of only an extra spear and a bowman. I might as well take that. Although, he might have overcommitted here. He's lost 2 bowmen and a spear out of that. So, maybe if he had committed first and then backed out. This is really going to hurt him. Just streaming his units past here. He's losing all this. Not actually dealing any other harass at the moment, because he's just massing up his forces. So I think he's really just selected pretty much all of his forces and garrisoned them here. And it's actually, it could hurt, but if he streams Crimson in and Crimson doesn't notice, which I don't think he has because he's not macroing, he's going to pinch a couple of units of his own. So it's both players sort of capitalizing on one another's imperfect decision making, so to speak, to really get a couple of units out of one another's armies without losing much themselves. So it's really quite smart play, I think, yet also imperfect play as well. So both of them looking to take a fight here. Obviously these Slingers are up trying to hit the bowmen, and the Lancers are all sort of spread across the army trying to really defend against the bowmen as well as possible. The Bearers just sort of mix all through the army to try and stop the bowmen from dealing a lot of damage to Crimson's army, for instance. But right now I think things, it's pretty hard to say. Both players doing a wonderful job of keeping resupplying units, and Rahani, despite being across the map, because he's got so many Lancers and Bowmen coming out, I think he's going to be able to do it. He's actually broken Crimson here. So Crimson, yeah, he's forced the GG. That's game 1 to Warlock. Well played. Actually, let's have a quick look at the score. So score-wise, guys, we're going to have a quick look at this. So Crimson's done a good job at keeping up there and then catching up as well. There's a bit of a blowout around the 6-minute mark, and he's caught back up again. But if we go, have a look at the villagers count. Yeah, Crimson does have some slight gaps there. In terms of, if we go to military, yeah, there's a big hole here, but things, really sort of even out towards the end. It was just a really, really nice fight, I think, from Rahani in the end. Really nice compositional play there. Both players did fairly evenly, I think, in terms of taking the map control in the sense, because, I don't know, Rahani really, he opened aggressively, but he didn't get a lot for it after that first villager. So, anyway, guys, I'll just have a little quick intermission, and get these guys set up. So I'll figure out what map Crimson wants to play, and I'll see what civs they're going to go, and we'll go from there, guys. Ooh. So Flavio's actually offered to help with casting, so yeah, alright, well. Right, guys, I'll just be 1 sec. I'll sort this out with him. Oh fuck, you mean to tell me my mic's been muted that whole time? Alright. Well, here we go. So, sorry about that, guys. I'll do a proper introduction here. We got the red Norse player, Warlock. We got the blue Persian, Crimson. And we've seen some early aggression come out from Crimson, who's opted for the early barracks, whereas Warlock had a really delayed barracks and sort of had to hold off 4 Sparbara with two spearmen and his scouts there and his villagers, but managed to do so, not losing a villager, only losing a spearman. And he's really managed to delay Crimson's push into his base. So Crimson looks to really be looking to transition behind this after this big rush of 9 Sparbara. So he's forced out 7 spearmen from Warlock, and he's forced him back onto the berries. So it's been quite an interesting opening game from these players, and they're doing a bit of a dance here, making sure they don't lose anything. Just Warlock doing his best to try not to get too zoned. Crimson, on the other hand, doing his best to try and zone him off anything out here. So we see the storehouse coming out from Warlock, but in the meantime, Crimson is really close to 300 stone. In fact, he's going to go over quite a fair bit because he's just saturated this stone mine so much, but he's done it pretty much purposely to try and use all them at once to throw down that town centre. And he's just hit age 2. Warlock, his is just on the way. But early harass from Crimson, even though it didn't seem to get a lot, because he's forced him off the hunt, and he had all that idle time, it has seemed to have done a little bit of damage to Warlock here. So, and he's forced out the 7 spears as well, which is doubly painful considering he's already got to get less resources. So, the Sparbara, he's upping that count even more, so he's really committing to this, getting some eco-tech behind this as well. Warlock, obviously trying to get the throwing axemen out now, because they're really going to be able to rain fire upon these Sparbara until Crimson can get some bowmen or some cavalry out. It looks like he's overextended. He's going to lose one here, take a bit of damage on the rest of the forces, try and pull out. So Warlock taking that gold mine after having been zoned off there for quite a little while there with this Sparbara ball. Thought one of these players might look at going water quite early, to be honest. Give you quite a big eco advantage, but in saying that, when one of you is going to spear pressure the other quite early, there really isn't a lot of time to muck around with stuff like that, and it can cost you the game. So we see aid 10 coming out from the Persian player. So that's going to be really useful because we can sit back on there, get healing out of that without having to get to age 3 and get some priests out. But here we go, we got a whole bunch of Sparbara, a whole bunch of throwing axemen and spears. So the Sparbara seem to be doing the work because they're really trying to focus down the throwing axemen who till now weren't really being microed that well. So he's lost an awful lot of Sparbara here, Crimson, but he's managed to pick the throwing axemen, which are actually the main target there, and the aid 10's hit. So anytime he tries to fight up around here, he's going to get the healing, and Warlock's really forced into having to actually deal with the storehouses now, because unlike a lot of the other civs, Persian storehouses really fucking matter. Even if they need no resources anymore. So, Crimson opting for the archery range. Both players having gotten on their second TCs near a gold. Crimson opting to go towards the waterline. Warlock towards the hills. Warlock's just parked his forces here. So this is a good push from him. He's going to be pushing Crimson off this food, who's really quite low on food at the moment. 1, 2 of the villagers. Lose a couple of units in the process, but it's alright. He's managed to deal a lot of damage. Careful with that low health scout, man. So the Sparbara, 8, the 9 units from Warlock. It's not really a fight he can take, so he is actually not straying too far from his base. And we see both players, yeah, just preparing for another engagement. Some bowmen coming out from Crimson. This is what's really going to make the difference here, because if he target fires down the throwing axemen safely, he's really going to put a dent in Warlock's army here. Warlock, on the other hand, if he gets the bowmen down, the Sparbara, they're going to be pretty hapless against the throwing axemen, provided that they're not standing still for too long. But in saying that, we've got some cavalry coming out from Warlock. The stables. Over here, We've got the Raiders coming in, taking out the Hunt on the other side of Crimson's base. So he's got these units here taking out the south side Hunt, and on the north side, he's got his cavalry taking out that one. Taking out the storehouse, this is going to be big because basically Crimson, he's going to have to go onto the berries now. Warlock, on the other hand, he's funnily enough already onto farm tech. It's a bit strange, but I mean, he's already got the eco lead. He might as well do it in a sense because it means that if he doesn't kill Crimson in the next couple of minutes, he's better prepared in the late game because he's already looked at, you know, getting down a couple of farms, getting the tech on them, all that sort of thing. And over here, he's dealing a lot of damage here, forcing Crimson off another Hunt again while he's pulled all the spar bar around with his cavalry, who are never going to catch them. So he's forced a garrison from Crimson. Two resource garrisons, 3 resource garrisons, then if you think about it. 3 resource garrisons then, just for a small amount of infantry, and the cavalry, on the other hand, taking next to no damage. These infantry are going to fall, but now that he's seen all these cavalry infantry on his opponent's side, I mean, all these archers on his opponent's side, and a big commitment to them coming up, Warlock's going to be pretty free to transition into whatever he likes now. As long as these don't get caught. So, Crimson having stuck his units across, this is quite smart. He's going to catch all these units, and the bowmen are going to be able to come up and clean up. But on the other hand, Warlock's sneaking around the backside. He's got a really good number of raiders. He's got 8 raiders. That's plenty of villager killing to be done. One last volley of bowmen. Picking off another throwing axeman of Warlocks who's sneaking back to his base, gets some more building done by his military, which is always nice to do because if you can do it with Norse, you're saving yourself on eco. Obviously, it just costs you in terms of field pressure. So Warlock's managed to again deny the Hunt, deny the Hunt, deny the Hunt. That's all he's doing all game, and now he's actually reached around to the wood line. These 9 raiders are actually really putting in the work, but up here in the top corner, there are some Asabara of Crimsons who are doing the same, pushing him off a gold and a food. Really needs to look at taking out that food though. So things are a little bit back and forth now at the moment with these cavalry of Rohaddi's all scattered out throughout Crimson's base, having denied an awful lot of gathering time then, but being forced to pull back and try and hit something else more vulnerable now. Meanwhile on the top side, Crimson's having to do the same. He's got to pull back. Now he's denied all this gathering time, but he doesn't want to be losing too many for a little of a gain, because you really need to be getting an eco gain out of it and then back out before you actually lose out on military. Otherwise, you're sort of not really getting yourself anywhere, and it's just, as Spaniel would say, a bit of a Pyrrhic victory, which is about a general named Pyrrhus or Pyrrhus. I think he was Greek. He won a war that pretty much cost him his people. So the term stuck, and that's the way things have been ever since. And if you're taking a fight that you win but you really shouldn't have won, or that the win was more of a loss anyway, that's the Pyrrhic victory. So that's just a bit of trivia, a bit of English general knowledge for you guys. We've got a bit of production coming out here. Warlock really stepping it up with the 4 barracks. It's too stable, and the getting temper first. So he wants to be able to deal damage. He's been forced back by Crimson, who's actually looking at taking the water. This is really nice, really smart by Crimson, who's got that field position advantage right now, and he needs to be able to make something out of that. He's been behind on eco most of the game, so this deny right now is really him getting himself back into the game. He's forcing Warlock off the berries, who's just gathering from that and some farms at the moment, and some more berries up on the top side. So in terms of his food eco, things aren't looking as swell for Warlock as they were before, but in saying that, Crimson, it looks like Crimson is well behind on workers. He's 21 workers down even at this stage. I should have been checking earlier, because I would hazard a guess that he was probably about 28 behind earlier before he got off some good harass. So Warlock, he's opting for the upgrade, the Throwing Axeman upgrade. Get some snare, get some more damage. Buying some time here. Got to be careful not to lose too many cavalry though, because Warlock's got a really good... Crimson's got a really nice ball of Spear Sparbara, which is nice for being able to deal damage to them as they come by. So watch post coming out up here on Crimson. He wants to be able to watch that high side, stop his opponent from being able to get too much field position, because there's this third TC coming out from Warlock, and this is going to be big. So if Crimson can deny this and maybe even get out, things can really look back in his favour. But he has to be careful. He has to micro his units round, and he has to take as many of them out as possible. He's really got to individually micro into each and every one of Warlock's TAs, but Warlock at the same time seems to be doing a good job of trying to clean up both at once, and he's got the town center down, about 40% health left, so this is really nice. Crimson, he's a bit late on the cavalry bringing him in, and Warlock is in behind with that, so things are really looking scary for Crimson, whose army is getting decimated here at the moment. He's got this dock as well as his 2 TCs, but Warlock, he's got the 3 TC, and right now he's near his dock line, so this is a good position for Warlock going into the mid-game. All these bowmen, all these Sabara, they're coming back, but what about all the Sparbara and Spears that went out, man? So, watch Tower going down, it's not going to be able to finish though, and he might even lose the scout, so... Big lead here for Warlock, who's on 73 versus 53 villages, and the army supply... Wow. At a 60 supply difference overall, so another 40 in terms of his army. So both players balled up here, looking to take a fight. Warlock moving his cavalry back around, trying to reposition, get back onto the archers if he can. Forcing the archers as far back as he can so he can make use of all the throwing axemen unopposed. So all this infantry and any cavalry is just going to get picked off. All the horsemen going straight onto the barracks. He wants to deny the tech as quick as possible. He wants to deny the production, stop his opponent from being able to do anything in this position. So really nice archer position behind all the buildings from Crimson, but he needs to pull them back just that little bit further, because with this many TAs, it's not enough. It's 32 versus 9, so it's not really a favourable count there. There's a fortress going up, and GG. Wow, that was a really intense game from the guys, and I'm sorry that my mic was muted to begin with. This was really nice back and forth. Crimson really committing to the Barbara at the start and getting something out of it, but Warlock did his best to minimise it, and he only lost 1 villager. And yeah, that was a really nice game to watch and cast, guys. I'll actually have a quick gander at the stats. So, see score tipping in favour of Crimson for a little bit actually in the early game. Well, going into the mid, it was fairly even, and then the longer the game went on, the more it seemed to tilt towards Rahani's favour. I think the use of his cavalry, particularly up on this north side, and then down on the south side with his infantry ball, having his army split in the 2 positions like that and raiding all game, I think that's what really won him the game in the end. So if we go to current villager pop, in terms of the current villager pop, in terms of the villager train, it's, you know, it tells a story, you know. Crimson's building as many villages almost, other than the gap that's sort of opened up. But it doesn't matter because Warlock's just raiding better. Not to say that Crimson did nothing, because he certainly did his own raids. He did a couple of his own and dealt some damage with them, but boy, that was a really nice raid comp from Rahani. Anyway guys, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have game series 4 tonight between Ares and Greeky, so cheers for that one. Be back soon. Yeah, sorry guys, I'll chuck it on mute for a sec. I'll be one.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
Thank you to whoever just subscribed.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
We are back, guys. Alright, so we're going to play a Mountain Crossing game for this one. I voted for this one. It's best of one game, so I guess I'm really picking. Yeah. Okay, so Casper's okay with that. I thought I'd just run it by him first. Just because if it's a map he's not comfortable with. I'm not sure if I just want to chuck him in the deep end against Ares. So just give me a sec. Let's fix the scores up. Oh, got all my scores all fucking confused now. Alright. Sorry guys. So. Alright, so we've got Casper in the blue, Ares in the red. And I'm just about to start it, guys. Oh no, we're already on the main page. Fingers crossed. I think this is, yep, going to start on us. So, take a big swig. So's the scores, don't really matter. Don't have to worry about keeping scores, but anyways, we got Mountain Crossing, we got Casper as the blue Norse player on the left hand side, the 9 o'clock position. And in the 3 o'clock position, we've got Ares, the red Egypt player, and I'm definitely not muted at this stage. So, both players just sort of scouting out their water lines first, which is really critical in this map. You really want to be able to judge whether or not it's a good map for you to open with an early dock, which Casper is doing at the moment, although he's pulling all 4 villages, so definitely going to have to chuck them on the food to make sure he gathers enough in the meantime. Meanwhile, Ares, he's opting for the wood line first, and for the berry, and for the hunt, sorry, as an opening. So we'll have to see how this one pans out, because they are opting for a slightly different economic opening to one another, with Casper opting for this dock, but obviously he hasn't actually got any wood left, so he's going to have to try and gather up 100 before he can make use of that. And he doesn't actually have anything on his berries at the moment, so he's not gathering any food, and he's only got 30 at the moment, got 2 workers queued up, so just soon to be 1, so he's going to have to gather a lot of food really quick, and I think he's going to try and take the hunt as well, which is a bit weird, trying to take the dock and the hunt, I think. That's an awful lot of range to be gathering from, so at the moment, I think Ares has probably got the more well thought out sort of approach to the map, so to speak. So we are seeing a fishing ship come out from Casper though, which basically does count as having 2 workers coming out, which is not a bad decision, but he can really only afford to get 2 or 3 of them on this map in that water pool, and then try and expand up here, which I think he might be looking at doing, considering he's running a scout up there just to see what else is up there. There's another gold nearby to take as well. Ares is coming through just to have a quick look at what's going on in his opponent's base, and he may scout this. He's already scouted. No, he doesn't know the dock's there yet. Sees the storehouse, so he's just checking to see if there is a dock, and he is going to scout it. So he does see there's a fishing ship already out as well. So Ares knows he's pretty much free to do what he wants at this stage, but he has to do something, because he needs to get either a TC up or take the waters. Otherwise he's going to fall behind economically, because Casper, now that he's got the storehouse down and the fishing ship out, he is gathering a little bit better, so to speak. So his early gambit, it has paid off, so to speak, but he has to continue the momentum, and he has to take the TC behind this. Otherwise, he risks falling behind again. So there's a Temple of Ra coming out from Ares, so he's going to get a quicker transition at H2. He's a bit slow on taking his stone, but he is actually starting to get some now. So Ares is on 12 villages. Casper's on 12, but he has 2 fishing ships, so it's actually not been too bad of a play from Casper, even though he did cut villages at some point, and I probably would have opted to do something slightly different myself, but ooh, Ares is actually taking the water on the top side, which Casper at this stage has no idea about. So that could really come to tip the tables into his favor. So turn the tables. So see a third fishing ship come out, and from here on, I probably wouldn't advise getting any more. He really should look at taking up at this stage, and yeah, maybe trying to scout out and secure that water if he can. So Ares right now, he's really got to try and get this town center out. He's smart with his resources because he's going to be later on getting anything out of his dock, obviously. So that's basically having 6 villages already, but in saying that, he had to spend money on the dock, and he's going to have to look at taking this other dock or throw up a TC. And he's going to be a little bit slower at doing so, because he's only getting on the stone now, getting the storehouse on that a little bit later. So these fishing ships are going to catch him up a little bit, but we'll just have to see how this pans out, because Ares is obviously going to go 3 here, and then he's free to actually do the same in his own waterline. And both players could probably look at trying to take a fight on the water. So Casper's actually coming on the top side, so this is actually, it's quite smart from Casper, trying to scout this top side, and he is going to see it. He's going to know now that he has to make the magic work, because he's not up a dock anymore. He's basically even on economy, and he's caught up on the stone. He's got 4 gatherers to 4 gatherers, so that's nice. He's not going to be too far behind on that town centre, and he's slowly clawing back the score from having cut the early villages. Yeah, Ares is now getting to the stage of being fully saturated on that water. He's got that scout really low, so you have to pull back, try and save it with the tech, or try and save with the Priestess of Ra. Personally, I go with the tech just because you can fucking forget about having the micro Priestess of Ra all game. Garrisoning some stuff, just retasking some villages. Second storehouse here on the top wood line for Casper. Getting a barracks just there, just to try and flank the stone mine as well. Not a bad position if his opponent tries to attack from that angle, so that's a good SimCity from him. There's a stables coming out first from Ares, as well as his TC, so the barracks into stables at the moment. Both players, yeah, they've got the 3 fishing ships, and there's 20v25 in terms of the worker count, so things are actually looking better for Ares. I'm not sure if it's just because he's had that faster the Priestess of Ra speeding up the units, or what it's been. Maybe Casper's lost. Maybe Casper's had a bit of downtime. Ares is actually asking about the lag, so Casper's. It's a really safe outpost, and I mean it's obviously going to be for the War Dogs, but saying that, if he puts it in a more greedy spot, it gives him a lot of information about his opponent's army, and that's an awful lot of War Dogs to have queued up at once, you know. Actually, sorry, I thought that was on the other side of the map for some reason. It's not too bad of a spot really being there, because it really stops that choke in saying that, and his opponent can't actually get on those berries. But he's got to do something about this water, because Ares actually gone up to an extra fishing ship and is taking his own dock. We haven't seen an eco tech come out for Casper, and we have for Ares. So Ares has actually got the big water lead. His town center is going to be a little bit slower, so the more experienced economic play from Ares, I think, is already starting to turn things in his favor, but smart War Dogs play here from Casper, I think, can also make the difference. They're a unit that is pretty trash, but in saying that, if you micro them well, you can make good use of them. And they can really be used for zoning like a cavalry, which is really nice to have, because they don't actually cost any population. So particularly if you're at a stage where both players are max, they can really be used to deal just that little bit extra. And so we see a stables coming up and an armory coming up for Casper. Meanwhile, there's been a second stables and now a barracks coming up for Ares. So pretty similar sort of openings. Just no armory from Ares yet. But he has got these camels. He's got 5 camels just sitting precariously outside of Casper's base, who's not going to see them just yet. They're just outside of vision. That's going to be a bit unlucky for him. And they're going to circle right round to the gold. They're going to be right prepped, ready to hit the wood line. Now they know that there's nothing on the gold, so he's going to run them right over to the wood and then down to the villages. Killing those just so he doesn't attack by them. Bit of missed micro though. He really should have only had 2 or 3 there. He's forced 10 villagers already inside, which is pretty big, and he's going to wrap around here, force another bunch back. Meanwhile, over at his own base, the War Dogs have come in, so they're taking out the camels popping out. So that's sort of going to slow down Ares' push. Not great. Realistically, he wants to try and force more than a single villager garrison. But it is something at the same time, considering it doesn't really cost him a lot, and he also is banking quite a lot of food, and he has done quite a fair bit of damage to this barracks, I've now just noticed, so he can come back and actually snipe that again, or force his opponent to just constantly have to sit camels there. And he's taking the stone up here. He's being denied the vision there by Ares. Quite smart, stops his opponent from being able to see his army coming around here at all. But at the same time, there's these walls coming up, built entirely with Axeman, which is also quite smart from Casper, but he probably knows that he has to do something to try and fight back that water, or make something big happen in here in the middle. So he's getting his upgrades, he's got the scale mail coming in. It's going to be really, really useful against these camel riders. Reduce their damage a lot, but he needs to do something, maybe get some more war dogs, maybe get some cavalry of his own. He needs to mix something up, because he's really only sitting on this single barracks, and that's going to hurt him, and he's got the resources to make a lot more happen than this right now. He's can get to age 3 and get the TC out, or put on a big raiding push, or whatever have you. So right now his opponent just running his cavalry in, but he's doing well to try and pick off the camels, and he's sending some units in, but he really needs to run some more of his spears over here. Garrisoning in the longhouse rather than the town centre, because it's a closer building, which is nice to see. And he's denying Ares' vision, forcing a lot of the camels back because he wants to be able to see where these raiders are going. So this is going to give Casper good vision and buy him a fair bit of time here. So it's quite smart from him against a more experienced player. Because Ares is going to want to hold on to this dock without having to get ships if he can help it. Because if he gets warships, they take up an awful lot of population and stops you from getting basically 1.5 cavalry each ship. So it's something that he's going to try and defend with his cavalry, which saves Casper and leaves him free to get down some more production facilities, get some more upgrades out. He's getting temper now. Meanwhile, his opponent, Ares, doesn't actually seem to have any offensive upgrades just yet. He's opting for more stables. He's up to 4 fishing ships back at his home. He's got age 3, and he's starting his 3rd TC, so economically Ares is ahead. But Casper is doing well to stay in the game. He's got some upgrades. He's playing quite safely. He really does need to look at aging up though. I think he's got the resources, and he seems to have all these queued out. All of his villages are queued out of the 1 TC instead of both of them evenly, that's going to hurt him. Little things like that do come to make the difference in long games, and right now we're starting to see that, because Ares, he has 60 villages. Casper, he's got 33. And the 3rd TC is coming up as well, so that's only going to become even more one-sided. And the raiding gap really doesn't account for 25-30 villages. 25 villages, you know, only half of that's actually come out of raiding. The other half of that has come out of better macro play from Ares at this stage. In saying that, Casper did well to get some early fishing boats out and make good use of that early game. But right now I think Ares, he's got the chariot archers here to back up the camel riders, which is really nice because he can attack all the spears and all the cavalry from the Norse player at range. And right now he's working away, he's picking off all the last of the spears, he's forcing the worker pull back off the gold mine. And this is really going to come to hurt Casper, who is not actually sitting on any other gold at this point. He's got this wall at the top side, he's got units everywhere, but he doesn't actually seem to have any down where his opponent's got his forces. So Casper's just kicked in with the 3rd age. He's going to try and get some more stables up. Going to try and maybe throw down a 3rd TC if he can, because he does have the resources to do so. He's got a fucking awful lot of wood in the bank. That's Facebook money, man. So he's garrisoned all these villages in the longhouses, not wanting to lose them, taking the fight here, right in between the TCs. But Ares is doing work to chip away at this dock just outside the TC range. That's quite nice to see. Have to micro the fishing ships back to do something with them. So there's more units coming in for Ares. They're just chipping away at the stables on the top side, but he's going to maybe lose this chariot archer. He needs to pull these all back and start massing a force. But he's got a fort back here, Maybe looking at getting some elephants, or throwing down a siege workshop next to it and getting some rams out. So we'll have to see what happens. He's got a large number of chariot archers in his opponent's space, right in next to the waterline. So he's going to be able to pick off the fishing ships and slowly chip away at the dock. Keep sniping his opponent's workers on the wood line, come back to the gold and force him back out there. So the pressure game's really coming out well from Ares at the moment. And Caspar, he hasn't done a lot to respond at the moment. He's got he's got the outpost down at the bottom, but he hasn't got the food to actually pump anything out of it. And he's just been forced to garrison way too much, I think. And the worker count disparity, it's up to 48 now. Like he's lost way too much now. He's really snowballed out, and he's got these raiders up on the top side, but they don't seem to be doing anything at the moment. They could really be chipping away at that dock, maybe force just a couple of units back, but I think this may be it, because there's a war elephant coming in on the TC, so GG. Alright guys, well I'm going to take a quick break and just get this all sorted. Ares v Greeky is going to start in about half an hour. So that was just a good little muck around game for Ares and a bit of practice for Caspar. I won't be a sec. Actually, I'll be one sec guys. I'll give you a quick wrap up with the scores before I leave. So, this is where Caspar really got hurt to begin with. And then what really sealed the deal... What really sealed the deal was this, I think. Yeah, Caspar did well though to take the water, I think. It was smart. Like, the downtime with the villages of 1 or 2 was offset by the fact that he got basically 3 extra villages out of having the fishing ships earlier. But in saying that, his opponent was able to respond by going double water and getting faster town centers behind it. And I think that's where the build come to fall apart. In the end, Caspar queued up an awful lot of skirmishes, but personally I think he'd be better off with an awful lot more cavalry, a small number of skirmishes, maybe more spearmen, and then maybe just a tiny force of war dogs just to keep his opponent occupied here. Not necessarily take a fight, but just chip away at a house, maybe take that barracks and then fuck off again. But anyway guys, I'll just be one sec. We're gonna, wrap it up for a little bit, and then we're gonna have Ares v Greeky, like I was saying.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
Thank you.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
Thank you for whoever just followed. I'm sorry, guys. It looks like I'm going to have to postpone the next game by about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm going to have Carnage versus Ares, and then we're going to have Greeky versus Warlock after that, I think. Is how we're going to run things tonight. Sorry for the delay again. This is still really a bit of a teething process with this whole thing. But once we get the ball rolling, this shouldn't be such a dilemma. But yeah, I'll just won't be a sec.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
Alright guys, we'll just be another couple of minutes. We're just getting set up and then we'll be ready to play.